As many of you will know, the German armed forces during the Second World War committed many atrocities against civilians and enemy forces alike. The SS are usually associated with these crimes, but the German army, or the Wehrmacht, were by no means innocent. I have covered some of these before and will link them below in the description. Most atrocities took place on the Eastern Front, but there were a few in the West after D-Day, probably the most infamous being that perpetrated by the Waffen-SS at Malmedy during the Battle of the Bulge. Less well known, however, is a massacre that took place in June 1940 during the invasion of France. Many of the soldiers in the French army were colonial troops, and a large proportion of these were from Senegal. Senegalese and other black French colonial troops had been stationed in the Rhineland after the First World War, and rumours spread about their behaviour. This was picked up by the nationalist press and spread even further. There were accusations of large-scale violations of women in the worst possible way, as well as other atrocities. This became known in Germany by names such as the Black Horror on the Rhine and the Black Shame. While there may have been some incidents, there was nothing to suggest that anything occurred like the rumours or the press were saying, and very little was reported at the time to the police. It seems to have been a classic example of the saying that a lie is halfway round the world before the truth has put its boots on. Regardless of whether the incidents had taken place or not, many of the German soldiers invading France were aware of what allegedly took place, and they were also aware that their comrades in the First World War didn't want to surrender to Senegalese or other African troops because they had been told they were cannibals and savages. These myths still perpetrated and led to the Chasselay Massacre. On the 19th of June 1940, the Grossdeutschland Regiment, which later became a division, was part of the 10th Panzer Division. Along with the 3rd SS Panzer Division, the Totenkopf, they attacked towards the city of Lyon. One of the French defending units there was the 25th Regiment Tirailleurs Senegalese. As the battle wore on, the Germans eventually took French positions. As they did, they started to execute black prisoners, several dozens of whom were defending the town of Lentely and the Montluzin Monastery. Approximately 2 kilometres away, in the village of Chasselay, Senegalese troops fought all day and through the night until their last round had been fired on the 20th of June. They then surrendered. The German soldiers took them prisoner and marched the soldiers and their officers, who were white, into a field. The officers were taken to one side and ordered to lie face down. The Senegalese troops were then ordered to form up in front of 2 tanks. They were told to run, and as they did so, the tanks opened fire with their machine guns. Once they'd all been shot, regardless of whether they were dead or alive, the tanks were then driven over them. Whilst this was happening, the German soldiers shot and wounded a French officer, but other than that, they were left unharmed. Approximately 50 of the soldiers were killed, and altogether, around 100 Senegalese soldiers died in the area. Those who were taken prisoner were kept in France because the Germans didn't want them, as they put it, to racially contaminate German purity. The local French people, some of whom sheltered those Senegalese who managed to escape, were expressly told not to bury the dead, but in the night they dug a mass grave and buried them anyway. Notices were put up forbidding the decoration of graves of Senegalese soldiers. One example read, "The German Army Command does not like and expressly prohibits the decoration of the graves of black soldiers." After the armistice, an official of the Vichy French government, Jean-Baptiste Marcheny, arranged for a cemetery to be constructed. It was, he said, to show attachment to the colonies, and on the 8th of November 1942, under the officiation of the Senegalese Muslim imam and Vichy French officials, in red ochre, after the traditional style, was dedicated, and in 1944, after the area was liberated, Senegalese troops paraded there to give their respects. 188 soldiers were buried there, and their graves were marked to say they were killed in combat. To date, most of the soldiers murdered remain unidentified. That concludes today's episode. Thank you all for watching. I will link some of my other videos below in the description, so check them out as well. See you all in the next one. Goodbye.